Yes, you just don't worry your little head, Prudence. I've got this. Cheater, pumpkin eater.
No, I'm not being a cheater. That's why I'm saying don't show it to me.
Show me.
All right, you guys ready?
Yep, we're ready.
And I remember her saying, okay, you're going to play Mr. Sin today. And she hands me this purple puppet with a nasty mustache. Pop the little puppet up, and literally on cue, 80 kids out there all, boo, no, yuck, I hate that guy. I was like, man, these guys are trained on cue. Like, I don't know if they got candy for doing that or what. But
oh, man, they just want to come down on someone.
Theological teaching. Deep theological teaching. Hey everyone, welcome to Together We Build. My name is Chris Behnke, and I'll be hosting this sweet show today, like normal. I've also got with us, typically we've got this person with us, Prudence O'Hare. Prudence, give me a high five. We've never done that before, which is fantastic, and I'm super glad that we're having, this is the second episode that we've got Kelley Salber with us. It's so cool to have you back here. It's almost like we just filmed the last episode 5 minutes ago.
It's weird.
We just happened to wear the exact same clothes a whole week later. No, I'm just kidding. We recorded these two episodes back to back, and I'm so glad that we did. This has been so fun to dig into and get a better understanding on the creative side of who God is. I think just to recap a little bit, what we talked about last episode, if you haven't seen it, we'll recap a little bit, but you should go watch it anyways. Is that God is a creative God right from the beginning, right out of the gate, book of Genesis, he's creating, and he's asking us to be creative with him. And a lot of times in our culture today, we have just taken that creativity and squashed it, and we've identified certain things that we allow to call creative, and everything else is not. So if you are a painter or a sculptor or musician or whatever, that's creative. But if you are a miracle whiz with an Excel spreadsheet, that's not creativity. And we really started to break that down. So, Kelley, do you have anything to say before we do the most important thing in the show, which is the be or not be?
I do. Just to start out with, so we can ruminate on this during the episode, is that I think it's important for us to realize that we are creating, whether we know we're creating or not, because
oh my goodness, that's good.
We're made creative. So we will create either negatively or positively, no matter what.
Right. Man, that is super good. We're creating one way or another. That is so...
It's just good to participate with it rather than...
so good, yeah. That's so good. So, speaking of creativity, the be or not be. So, we're going to do the be or not be. You guys were all 100% for 100%.
They're really creative on the Babylon Bee.
Those guys
They really are.
So, if you don't know what we're talking about, we do this thing on every episode where I read article headlines that are either from the Babylon Bee. If you don't know what the Babylon Bee is, go check it out after you're done watching this. But it is a satire website. It's a satire website that they come up with the most pithy, clever, neato headlines that are so close to truth, but they're definitely satire that makes them very funny. So I'm going to read an article headline that's either the Babylon Bee or it's a real article that you can't believe is real because it sounds like a fake article. Because it's like, how could this be? Like, for example, we had one a few episodes back, man rescued by police after being chased by baby squirrel was a real article. Yep. Happened in Germany, so I don't know. Okay. All right, you guys ready? Be or not be? Be or not be? First of all, do you guys want to put any money down on this? No, I'm just kidding.
Absolutely not.
Here's the first one. 8-year-old girl pulls medieval sword from lake. 8-year-old girl pulls medieval sword from lake.
I say that's a true headline.
Prudence says true. Kelley? True or Babylon Bee? Real headline or Babylon Bee? We're not saying whether it's a true article.
Yeah.
There's some stuff written out there that's
headline.
garbage.
Okay, I'm going to go with the B.
Kelley's going with the
I've
B.
never gone with the B.
She's never gone with the B. Haley? 2 not B's and a B. 3 not B's and a B.
I just didn't want to, copy Alice.
Oh my goodness.
She wants to be creative.
Okay. It is a real article. This really happened. And that was
What a
reported.
find.
Did you
in
read
the
that
BBC.
story?
No.
Oh.
No, it just sounds like it could happen.
Okay.
Like I
They
can
all
believe,
sound
I
like
can
they could
believe
happen
that.
to me.
Yes, they all sound.
And it's not an ugly thing.
Right.
That makes me
Okay.
feel better.
YouTube saves babies. Okay, let me just read it differently. Mom delivers her own baby after watching YouTube tutorial. Mom delivers own baby after watching YouTube tutorial.
I would say that's true.
Yeah, I will go
We
with
got a
that.
true.
That's a
we got-
real
we got
headline.
a real headline. Real headline.
It's amazing
Prudence.
what you can find on YouTube.
Haley. So we got a B, we got a not B, and then we got two
Not Bs.
not Bs. It is a real article. It is a real article. Mom delivers her own baby after watching YouTube tutorial. The thing is, I kind of want to see how that all transpired, but I don't. You know what I mean? So you're gonna deliver the baby, and then you're like, hold on, let me YouTube this real quick and watch, and then. Can you just imagine this? Like all of a sudden, you're going to deliver this baby. You're trying to watch the tutorial, and then like the ad comes up, and you're like, I don't want to watch the ad. Like they're trying to get me to buy Photoshop subscriptions or whatever. And then after that, the please sign up for a free trial of YouTube Plus comes up, and you're like, no, literally, I have to deliver a baby. I don't know.
Well, maybe she was watching the instructions beforehand. Maybe
before she got pregnant, like she planned this.
No, before she went into labor.
Yeah.
Before she went, so she's prepped herself
Yeah.
with YouTube videos to be ready to give birth. That sounds actually reasonable.
I mean, we don't know the circumstances on this either. What if it was in the middle of Kansas somewhere where there was no
What's
one?
in the middle of Kansas? They don't do birth. They only do birth via YouTube.
In the middle of Tornado Alley, and there's no one there to help her, or she knows that she's alone.
That says the writer.
That says-
And the
Let's
plot
just get
thickens.
creative about how this could have
Plot
happened,
thickens.
or why. I don't know.
All right. Here we go.
Inflation.
B or not B?
Bills.
Russia looking forward to picking up $40 billion in new equipment after U.S. abandons Ukraine.
Oh, definitely the B. But this is actually, I can see this happening.
Russia looking forward to picking up $40 billion in
It's
new equipment
definite.
after
Gotta
U.S.
be the B.
abandons Ukraine. We got a B. B or not B?
Well, it sounds like something the bee would say, but it could come to pass. So, yes.
So you're going.
Both.
You're
I'm going
with
with
B?
both.
I just don't like it that they're putting this idea in their minds.
They
if
already
this is
have
the
it.
B.
Russia. They definitely have already taken this into account. Haley. So Jason not B, Haley B. Okay. It is a Babylon B article. But Kelley, you're correct.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
for certain going to come to pass. It is
Yes.
going to move from satire to truth. I just have a sneaking hunch. It's just a little hunchy poo that I've got.
Just because
that
this type of thing has happened before. I mean, I don't know.
it's happened before many times.
Because we're so generous.
Yeah.
That's just how we roll.
Exactly.
We're like, you know what? What's a few
We just like
Abrams
to donate
tanks
a few
between
things.
friends?
We're big donators of stuff we
We are.
don't want anymore.
So, anyways, let's move on.
Let's.
Let's just move on. That's a little bit crazy. So, Kelley, I may or may not get to these questions because
fine.
I feel like where we went on the last episode, again, if you haven't seen it, go watch it, was really awesome. And I think I'd like to just keep going on there because I feel like what I hope is going to happen is that people will start to break down their preconceived notions they're not creative. Mm-hmm. So you said something that was pretty firm and absolute in the first episode where we were talking about this. You said everyone is creative. And I just know that some people heard that and they're like, well, I get what she's saying, but I'm not. So when you say everyone, do you mean everyone except like that person that says they're not creative? Or do you really mean everyone when you say everyone?
I absolutely mean everyone. And everywhere I go, I will ask the question, okay, who in the room feels like they're not creative? And there's always a whole bunch of hands that go up. More hands go up for not creative, then go up for creative.
Oh, wow.
And so we always have to start there to dispel that, because it's so cultural, it's so ingrained in us. And we talked about that last time, how you start out creative because you're inherently creative,
Right.
and then it kind of gets beat out of you or
Squashed.
shut
Yeah.
down as we go through systems, so to speak, and depending on what system you grew up in, and just the different areas of society and how they operate, how
Yeah.
controlling they are.
Yeah, and I think it's important to dig into that a little bit, because I think parents inadvertently do this, and when they're super little and they say, I want to start a circus, mom and dad are like, you can do anything you want, circus sounds fun. But then later on you're like, I don't know about circus. I think maybe you need to get a job first. Like, let's be realistic. So that's usually not done out of any kind of malicious intent, right? And there's some ideas. So what you said in the last one was so good, is creativity is the linking of ideas.
It's linked problem solving.
Linked problem solving. Okay, linked problem solving. So as a parent, let's talk about parenting for a second. As a parent, you recognize, hey, I don't want to squash this creativity, but what do I do and how do I handle it when the linked problem solving solution that the 8-year-old comes up with is really a bad solution?
It's
So how do you like help them learn without squishing the creative juices out of their bodies?
I think, and again, like in parenting, of course, you get stressed, you get overwhelmed, and you're what you were modeled tends to come out. But I remember seeing a picture where a child had scribbled on the wall, and instead of the child getting in trouble, the mom actually framed it and then put the art card, that says the artist and the medium and all of that right next to it. And I thought, now that is brilliant. And hopefully it was also followed up by I would rather
I'd rather not on the wall.
you didn't do it on the wall. Like bringing the instruction, like celebrating the innovation, so to speak,
Yeah.
or celebrating the creativity, but then saying, okay, there are constraints that we have for now. Who knows? Maybe when this child grows up, they're going to be the best street artist the world's ever seen. But if they get in trouble for scribbling on the wall, and it becomes this negative thing, and pain is involved, or any, that it becomes, oh, I'm bad, or I shouldn't do that. Yeah. Or maybe they even associate it with a crayon after that. You know how we are. We're very complex. And, two children in the same household will react differently to the same circumstance because we're so different and complex. But I think if there are ways to be creative ourselves as parents, nurture our own creativity so that we're not threatened when something happens outside of the norm.
Yeah, right.
And so we can go with the flow that we were talking about earlier and say, okay, how are we going to solve this? I know when my child was little, my paradigm was anger. Like, that's the only emotion my dad ever showed me, right? So I was always in trouble. And when my daughter would do things like 1 and 2 years old, she would do something which are normal for a 1 and 2 year old to do, right? But as soon as she did it, anger came up in me, and I would be like, okay, I know that's not what I want to do. I would actually look at her and put my finger out, and I'll go, I'll be right back. And I would leave the room, and I would pray. I was like, okay, God, I know what I don't want to do, but I don't know what to do, and I need you to help me. And so then a solution would come that wasn't automatic. It wasn't that instant what I was shown kind of thing. And so you break, not only is it going to then be different for your children, but you're breaking patterns and setting new ones and giving possibility.
And
just by taking the time
as
out.
parents, we don't have to understand the way our children are drawn
Right.
to different creative, like with my parents, They just provided the tools and ability for me to go into that direction.
Right.
And
They were observing.
yeah. So even that is just, I mean, that's huge. You don't have to, as a parent, really understand why your kid is drawn to a certain specific space or medium.
Yeah, you just cultivate it.
Just
help
figure
them
out how to help support them in the growth of it.
Yeah, I think a whole bunch of parenting or jobs or whatever, there's preconceived ideas of how it should be. And if we can let go of that, like I know the hugest thing that God has taught me in my lifetime is letting go of outcomes. Because we do that. We jump forward to an outcome that we think should happen. If we do this, and this, then this should happen. And having an adult child now, we did this, and this, and that wasn't the outcome. So it's like holding on to outcomes loosely and really understanding that they're in their own journey, and their own journey is creative. Yeah.
Man, that's so good. I think that there are some churches and some groups of believers that are beginning to do a better job in this area. But for the most part, the church has been absent out of creativity and art, and really looked down on it. And there's some reasonable reasons to look down on some of the way people express themselves, because it's kind of be. Really the enemy is trying to capture it. So there's two things that I kind of want to dig into. One is, I feel like one of God's most creative beings that he made was Satan. Okay? So then you see this because he was the lead worshiper, and even parts of his body were instruments. But then that creativity was, I believe, I don't know if there's even scripture for this, but that creativity was removed and stripped away as he came to earth. So now he's in copycat mode, right? Do you agree with that?
I think that is oversimplistic.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Which we do when we're trying to bring understanding to things. But what I really feel is that in people, there is a desire for more. There's always a desire for more. That's why when people are captive, they're always searching, or they stay alive. Like during the time of World War II in the concentration camps, they always know there's more. Inherently, we know that there's more. Inherently, we know there's a God. Inherently, we know we're created by someone. And I think when people are expressing, if they're under the influence of darkness or the fallen, they're still searching. There's still a searching that's happening, and they're looking. And I think it's really important for us to encourage, whether they know the Father or not, to encourage them in creativity, to encourage artists, no matter where they're receiving their information from, just to create that value and that honor for the person. And really, the only thing that never fails is love. So finding what's on the heart of the Father for that person, which kind of leads to the prophetic art we were talking about, but always, I think it's important for us to get above the tree of knowledge of good and evil, to let go of polarities.
Right.
For us to even say this is God or this isn't God is arrogant, because that's my feeling. Because the person is made in his image, whether they've connected with that or not.
Right.
And it's really important to be able to see everyone the way the Father sees them. Because
that's so good.
Christ died once for all. And so the price has been paid, whether they're aware of a need to even have a price paid.
Right. So I think that's such a powerful way to look at it, because kind of the way that I see it is Satan is this really profound talent scout, right? So if God's called somebody to have this kind of expression in a certain way, and Satan sees that and he's like, okay, sweet, let me go work on that. I'm gonna try to capture that as soon as I can. And then that it's just so beautifully ties in with what you were saying, because then the church has traditionally, again, there's some great exceptions that are doing a great job, but traditionally, like, been afraid of it, and that just has given him permission to then be a talent scout and go really kind of corrupt what God had originally created. So all that leading to, so what's the church's role in this? Like, why is this so important that the church is looking at the arts in a more welcoming way than they have for the last 200 years, 300 years? Why is that so important?
Well, I think one of the things you hit on is fear. Fear definitely shuts down creativity and makes us more compartmentalized and conforming. The church itself, if it's representing, or its heart is to represent the Father, God is love. And love creates. So the church itself has to get to the place where love rules. Church being a very broad stroke.
Sure.
Each individual within the body of Christ has to go after their own identity in love, in order to not be threatened. Because really, it's really easy to say broadly, the church this, the church that, but it's really about the people. And
that's so true.
Encouraging growth within whatever community or tribe, as we call it here, encouraging personal growth to be able to walk in love, to communicate love, and to really be, love casts out fear. For me, my heart is very much for, number one, that everyone's creative, but number two, the artists. So I work with a community of artists. Most of them don't know that they're created in His image. But it's still that always looking at them, and they're tormented people, most of them, a lot of them, but always looking, okay, Father, what's on your heart for them? What are you thinking about them? How did you make them? So that I can speak, or people on my team can speak to the truth of their being, is what I call it. How are they really made? What's on their scroll, so to speak? What's in their destiny? And how can they be loved into and out of darkness? Because their own well-being, when they connect with who they are, is what will communicate the Creator.
Man, that's so powerful. That's so powerful. Prudence, you have any thoughts on that? I mean, I've got other questions, but I just feel like there's something right there that you've got.
I think, as we're speaking about the church base, we tend to be resistant to change and new on different levels and in lots of different ways. And creativity, actually, creation brings in new and
always
new solutions, new ideas, new ways of doing things. And I think that in a large degree, the church as a whole has been hampered by not accepting that creativity, which has really held us back and held us down.
I completely agree.
And I think it's something that needs to open up.
Well, especially considering that we are, we're called into sonship, and we're the ones those of us that know that we are the sons of God, or that we're created by the Creator, or connected to the heart of God. We're really called to be the governors,
Right. That's
and
right.
to bring heaven on earth, right? On earth as it is in heaven. Bring the kingdom, legislate the kingdom, and like we talked about last time, kingdom is win-win.
Yeah, that's right. So, with regards to the creative process and art itself. I know that a lot of people will often talk about how healing art is.
Yes.
Like seeing someone's creative expression, how that can even bring healing to them. Can you talk about how experiencing someone else's art can bring healing?
Well, now you're kind of getting into quantum physics, which is
a big word.
Let's go there.
So we all create, or we all exist within frequencies.
Right.
And the more we're connected with the love, the higher our frequencies. And so when we create or we bring a piece to manifestation or to the physical realm, it's releasing a message in the unseen realm. So one of the reasons why we cultivate on our team that they create knowing they're connected, because like I said, separation is an illusion, but we've got to get to the place where we know that we're connected. So we're creating heart to heart. Then that essence or those frequencies remain on the art. And so when you stand in front of it, sit with it, be with it, that's what people are connecting with. That's what they're sensing. They're sensing the frequencies from which it was created, which is why if there are negative frequencies, like there's some art where we're just like, ooh, it's actually in the unseen realm that we're sensing that. And so from whatever frequencies we create from, that's what's going to remain on the piece. So it's a conversation, one way or the other, that we're capturing.
So do you think that when we understand that we're partnering with the Lord when we create, that we are more accepting of our own art?
Oh, absolutely.
Rather than, because probably, and I'm just making an assumption, in the artist world as we know it, we always, there's this phrase that we are our own worst critic.
Correct.
So if we are not hearing from the right source,
I would completely agree with that, because even in the midst, I will deal with that. Where if it's something where I know I'm in the flow and I'm doing the thing, it comes out. There's definitely an understanding that this was a co-creation. Mm-hmm. But if I get into a space of doubt, or I start to look for evidence that it's making a difference, instead of just believing the Father, because we do that, then very quickly it can spiral down into, I don't even know why I'm doing this. This is stupid. Right, or, right. I mean, that kind of thing. It's like I'm just wasting time, or, which we've all had those wars within us where when we believe the message that comes through the filters, that self-talk of this is stupid, or nobody cares, or whatever it is. We all hear things. And you agree, because the power is in agreement. If you agree with that, when I agree with that, it gets very discouraging very quickly. And there has to be a switch in myself where I'm going, okay, I'm not going to believe that. I'm going to believe what my God says about me. I'm going to believe what the truth is. I'm going to believe that whether I see evidence or not, I know I'm doing what I'm meant to do. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So if we kind of spin that a little bit and we look at the other side of this healing thing, like, how is it the same reason that a lot of people find actually doing the art healing as well? Is it the same, or is it different?
Well, I would probably say two things just to finish up the first question, because I realized I didn't really say that. So the healing from art, part of it has to do with intention too, when we were talking about. So intention of the artist, when we're connected, we know we're connected. Like there was an art piece I created specifically. It was a prophetic art piece, and it had to do, I can't even remember the psalm. This was several years ago, but it had to do with be on wings, lifted up. that kind of thing. And I was in a workshop and we were told, okay, so what body part would that relate to? And I was like, okay, shoulders, So when I released the piece, it was like, okay, anybody have problems with their shoulder? And there were like 4 people raised their hand. And so there's a release in the art. It's like when they looked at the art to bring healing for that particular part of their body. But that had to do with intention. And I think that, again, is that connection with the heart of the Father. What does he want to do? And how does he want to release that? And the second part of that is it's the image. So image travels faster than words. We can pray. Yes, definitely. But there's especially if someone's been hurt or in pain physically or emotionally for a very long time, doubt kind of sits up there, unbelief kind of sits pretty high because there's been so much pain for so long. It's kind of a habitual thing. And our brains run in patterns in thinking.
Right.
And so image can interrupt those pathways in the brain more so than words, because we're used to words traveling a certain way. It's kind of like, I look at it like road construction, or like so that in order to build a new road, they break up the old road.
Right.
That happens in our brain, the synapses to synapses. We can have unrighteous pathways broken up and establish new pathways. And a lot of that can be done through art. And the same with if they are doing the art themselves, because it's that you're bypassing the normal routes and you're going straight to the heart. So then there's a release and there's a healing that happens.
So this is way deeper than what most people think. So I think a lot of people would say, oh, well, it's healing because you relax when you're doing art, and so relaxing is good for you, and so it's relaxing. Or you don't want to hold in all of your thoughts, so express them through art. All that's true. But you're saying it's much deeper than that. It's much, much deeper than that.
Yes, it's really the way God made us. I mean, we're very complex, but and this may be easier in other cultures that aren't the Western mindset where we categorize everything, whereas the Eastern mindset is more circular and more whole, not so separated. But I think for the Western cultures, art therapy, being with art, either creating art or being with art, is huge for getting us to a different place, getting us unstuck.
Wow, that's so good. There's something you've referenced probably a dozen times these last 2 episodes where you talked about prophetic art. Can you tell us what prophetic art is? That's definitely going to be a new term for some people.
I would say probably the most simplest way to define that, instead of using the word prophetic, is like, what's on the heart of the Father? What does he want to communicate? That's it. What is God saying? And for myself, for my team, it's again, it's sitting in that place. It's sitting in the middle of his heart and saying, hey, what's on your heart for such and such? Or like we did an activation a couple weeks ago in our tribe, where it was, we didn't necessarily know who it was for, but we just asked the Father what he wanted to release, and then we said what Father said, and then it connected with somebody, and they got the art piece. And
so as we're talking about this, we have an art piece here.
Yes.
And
this is a piece
Kelley
of art.
did this. You want to talk about
You can see it pretty well.
what this
Should be able to see it
is,
pretty well on the
and
camera.
like maybe this will be a visual example for what we're talking about.
this particular piece, this was what the Father was telling me. So let's talk about capturing conversation when
Yeah,
I was
absolutely.
praying for Eagle Mountain itself, this body, and so these are elements, and when I say capturing a conversation, a lot of it is it's not out loud and it's not in words necessarily. It's a sense. It's a
tangible word picture of
Right,
sorts.
a tangible word picture. And a lot of times when I work, other artists work differently, but when I work, it's more of a feeling rather than an actual, like there's ways to execute. Obviously, you have to have, you have ways that you're going to execute because you have to. But so in this piece, I got the woven hot air balloon, which basically, what I felt like it was representing is Eagle Mountain. And then what Eagle Mountain does as an apostolic resource center is, reaching and teaching to all those areas of culture. And so the buildings have mountain-like roofs in all the different colors of the rainbow, just representing all the 7 areas of culture that are common to every culture. Every civilization has those areas. And then the spirit or the breath or the fire of the Holy Spirit obviously is what gives the balloon its lift. The wovenness has to do with all the people that God brings together. And we were talking about that last time, the pointillism kind of standing beside one another.
Right.
When we're all woven together, that's what makes the structure that can get the lift to go beyond. So one of the ways that I represent that there's more or that it's out beyond is planets that we don't necessarily have in our solar system. It's like it's not real.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, it's not real the way we know it. So it's pushing out beyond, reaching beyond what we know, reaching beyond what we know.
That is super powerful. I love the imagery of the woven piece, right? Like if this one particular patch it just doesn't show up, then there's going to be a big leak there, and
Right.
the lift won't work.
Right. Just how we need everyone, and everyone that
everyone.
God brings us has a place. Everybody has a place at the table. They have something to bring.
That's fantastic. So would you consider, is this a good example of prophetic art, how you're capturing what the Lord is saying to you?
Yes.
And then expressing it through this particular piece?
Yes. It's carrying a message. It's releasing a message that will continue to be released into the atmosphere through the frequencies we were talking about. Yeah.
So I love how you say that, at least for you, you get a sense of what the Holy Spirit is kind of giving you. Because I think a lot of people are like, oh man, that is so cool that Kelley can do that. But I don't,
Yeah.
I don't hear anything from God. What would you say to that?
I would say I don't hear anything from God either. Because it's not, it's really about finding that place where, and I think, everybody's different in how they relate to the Father, but for me, I have to be comfortable in that it's not necessarily a cerebral thing or a thinking process. It's deeper than that. And I don't even know how to really say that except for subconscious or superconscious, which is more spiritual. Our superconscious is our spirit. And so it's more intuitive, or it's already there. Like I said, the kingdom of God is within. And so it's going within to find whatever it is and then bringing it out. So it's kind of like, you've heard of ascending, how in the Psalms he talks about ascending. And I think it's that idea of connecting with the Father. We always kind of picture him as being up. That's awesome.
Who didn't turn their mute on? It wasn't me.
But it's that idea of going up, but to bring it down, to make it really simplistic, it's like we have to connect in order to release on earth as it is in heaven. But it's really not up, it's in. And being comfortable with that. I think we love to separate. We love to have God sort of unreachable because then we're not really responsible.
So I want to kind of push down on that a little bit more too, because I feel like, I think a lot of people, they feel like they're not creative, and then they take a bit of a risk, and then they put something on paper, or they create something, and then they look at it, and because they're so conditioned by culture, they're like, That's kind of lame. So that definitely can't be from the Lord. Because if it was from the Lord, then it would have been like Picasso.
Right.
So can you speak to that?
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely.
My guess is that sometimes the Lord speaks to someone and what they put is the stick figure equivalent, and it's no less powerful than something else. Is that true, or am I reaching?
You're not reaching at all. So one of the things that we just call it refrigerator art. But because, when we all put our like 5-year-olds, what they did on the refrigerator, but what we tend to forget is the delight of the Father. Like if you think about it as a parent, when your child makes that piece and you put it on the refrigerator, put it on the refrigerator because you're proud of them, because you're excited that they're exploring and they're learning and they're growing. And the Father feels the same way about us. And it's sitting in that confidence of whether or not I can do this like Picasso or Van Gogh or Monet or whatever, it's that I'm doing it. I'm doing it. And again, if we think about the unseen realm, the frequencies on the stick figure are the same as the portrait. That's perfect. When it's done with that connection with the heart of the Father. And so when we do prophetic art and we're just handing out a piece to somebody, it's like, hey, God told me this. It is profound and amazing, the impact. Part of it is because you took the time for that person to hear what the Father had to say, even if they don't know him. If you're like out on the street and you're like, hey, I was just sitting with God today, and I know this seems kind of weird, but I drew this picture, and this is what I feel like it's saying. Does that mean anything to you? Yes, it does. And it could be just stick figures.
So I think this is so important. So what you're saying is going to make some people really uncomfortable, right?
It's my job.
So excellent work. So how would you encourage someone that's like, so I felt like I heard something from the Lord and I drew this thing and I'm looking at it and it's refrigerator art level, and I feel terrified to give it to somebody and say, I feel like I heard something from the Lord, because they're going to go, this is what the person's thinking in their head, right? They're going to look at that and say, that's really dumb. What would you say as encouragement to them? Like, how do they approach feeling that risk? Like, how should they approach that?
Well, I think first of all, that's always a possibility. People accept
the possibility that they might flat out reject.
People
Sure.
accept or reject from their own position, whatever they're feeling or whatever from that. So that's always a possibility. Yes. The second thing is, it's not about you.
Aha.
So,
ding.
yeah, we have to get out past ourselves. And it's the whole death to self thing. It's like, this isn't about me. This person is the one that's on the heart of the Father right now. I'm secure. God's got me. It doesn't matter.
Obedience.
It's
really.
totally about obedience. It's also, it's even more, I mean, sometimes obedience gets a bad rap just because it seems, but this is an amazing journey and it's fun. And just do it. Just do it. It's like the first few times will be terrifying, but then you get past yourself and you realize I am co-creating with God and I'm bringing a message to somebody that he loves and he is delighted.
Yeah. So several years ago, I went to this event. I think it was hosted by some people from Bethel or something, and it was out somewhere in like a Grange or something.
I was there too.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know
All
you
right.
then.
So, me and my friend went, and Tara actually, and I was fairly new to like a lot of the more spirit-filled church, actually. So a lot of it was very new and strange and different and change and, all of those scary things. But one of the guys that was a part of the thing gave me a paper that he sat there and he drew, and there were a picture of these hands, and they weren't anything fantastic. I mean, you could tell they were hands, but the guy wasn't Picasso.
Stick figure level.
You know?
Well, they might have looked like Picassos.
That's true, Picasso.
Could be. Anyways, but he wrote healing is in your hands
That's awesome.
on it, and then he signed his name, and I think even put the date, or I put the date because I date everything. But I still have that picture because I didn't want to throw it away, even if it was like not a fantastic picture, but it meant something, and I wasn't just going to toss it until I could look at it for a long amount of time. And just like I hung it up on this little corkboard in my bedroom area.
Excellent
and just
response.
like walked past it every single day, and just like, why did this guy give this to me?
And what eventually did it say to you? Did it say anything to you?
Well, I do a lot of things with my hands, and I've been told many times over that what my hands help produce is actually very healing. So while I thought originally what he was saying is you're going to heal somebody's knee,
Yeah, I thought that's what you were
like
getting.
an illness or something, I didn't know if that was the case, but it could be many different avenues. It doesn't have to mean that.
But you hit on a very good point. Most people in the church would pigeonhole that into, I'm going to heal with my hands, because we have compartmentalized.
Right, literal healing. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Even though it could be radical healing through the music or what you write, both of those
Yeah, whatever
came
you
through
do.
your hands.
Yeah, but this is an example
Decorating.
of somebody just taking a risk and handing somebody
Yes.
that they didn't know something, and what they're just like, you know what? It's not my responsibility once it leaves
my hands.
Once it leaves my hands,
Yeah.
what this person does with it. So,
And can I say
Anyway.
you also took a risk?
yeah,
Because you chose to believe that God had a message for you, and you put it on your corkboard and you looked at it, and that whole looking at it every day is actually a brain science thing as well. So things will come to fruition as we, gaze with intention and let it go into our spirit.
yeah, and I didn't even know about all of that at the time.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's amazing how much science. Sorry, Chris. How much science and is now like revealing what God always intended science to reveal.
Is always catching up.
Yep.
It's always catching up. So with regards to the prophetic art, I think what I heard is a couple of messages. One is, hey, there is a very reasonable chance that they're going to completely reject it. So go into it not thinking that every time you do something like this, it's going to be some wonderful story that you're going to be able to get up on Sunday and tell everyone about. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't be obedient with the art, and it's not about you. So that's really, really powerful. And then the second part is you don't, like, you're hearing from the Lord. We all hear in part. We all see in part. You're hearing from the Lord. You're expressing what you're hearing into something that is, an expression, right? And you need to remove whatever expectations you have that it looks like a Picasso or a Michelangelo or something famous. Like, maybe the Lord's going to give you something that looks like the Mona Lisa in expression, or maybe he's not. That's not up to you. Like you said, it's the same thing. It's not about you. It's about the Lord, and it's about this person, and you're acting as a conduit, right? That's the way they should look at it.
Yeah. I think also to keep in mind, as long as you're doing it with the Father, I mean, there's going to be mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. Sometimes you're going to force an issue when you shouldn't force an issue. All that. That's all part of learning. And it's okay. But
Right.
It's also the idea that, okay, maybe they rejected this time, but the next time someone else does it, or someone, you don't know where they're at on their journey. And so it's like we all just do what the Lord has asked us to do. And at some point, it's going to hit...
because we act as stepping stones.
Exactly.
For
And we do our
people.
part, and we're not the hero in every story, But somebody's going to be at some point, because they super obedient or did what the Lord asked them to do, and God's pursuing that person.
Man, that's so good to approach it that way, that we're playing a part. We don't have to play the whole story. We're part of the story. And really it's about that obedience, and remove our own, expectations, whatever they are, remove those. And somebody can be really blessed. And I think, have you seen that? Have you seen refrigerator level art radically bless someone?
Absolutely. Because a lot of times what will end up happening is, especially if somebody is seeking the Lord, let's just say from the perspective somebody's already seeking the Lord, and they've been getting impressions, or they've been getting thoughts or ideas or direction, and then you step in, and usually what ends up happening is you're the confirmation. Because the Lord always likes to speak to us first, right?
That's great.
And now if it's somebody that doesn't know the Lord, he still knows what's happening in their circumstances. And when you step in and say, hey, this might seem kind of weird, but I was praying today, and God asked me to find somebody with a blue sweatshirt and give them this piece or this picture. And, they have on their blue sweatshirt, and who knows what it was that they were dealing with that day, but whatever is speaking directly to their circumstance. And it just shows them that God sees them. And that's what he wants us all to know. He sees you, he hears you, he knows you. And we're just part of that. We're part of communicating that he sees you, he hears you, and he knows you, and you're valuable.
Man, that is so powerful. So a couple of the lessons that I'm hearing here is, don't expect it all to be super wonderful and fairy tale like. It might not go that way.
It rarely goes that way. Let's just say that.
Yeah. But at the same time,
and a lot of times you don't know.
You don't.
You'll
a lot
never
of times
know.
you don't know. That's a super good point.
Yeah.
A lot of times you're going to speak something, whether you're speaking it or through prophetic art or whatever, there's going to be a reaction, and you're like, oh, I'm so glad that went. I'm not glad. I'm not glad. I'm sad. Try getting it out. I'm sad that it went so poorly, right? But you don't really know what step you are in that journey, and you don't really know what's going to happen. And sometimes those words seem like they fell on deaf ears, but they didn't. They penetrated,
right?
And that person is going to be affected radically. And sometimes they're not. Sometimes it's a lesson that you're going through, too.
Well, true. And also it's that idea, again, of eating from the tree of life rather than the tree of knowledge of good and evil. If we can get above judgment, like judging ourselves or judging them, or that it just is. We're just part of this process. We're part of this journey. There's no, in the midst of this, there's no right or wrong. There's no black or white. There's no polarity.
No black or white or pastels. Just kidding.
Or pink.
Or pink. You're not a pink fan either?
No.
So no pink, no pastels.
I'll do the pink.
I know.
I'll take
Prudence
it.
has got the pink
in this balloon.
She's got the pink. So there is something that is very important that we need to talk about before we get to the end of this. Prudence has a button that says Happy Hands Club. And there's
awesome.
a picture of Napoleon Dynamite on it, and I just need to understand why that is.
All right. Well, my little vest thing, the little handles here, I call them handles. They're too long, so I needed some pens, okay? And this was what was in my drawer. I really liked the movie Napoleon Dynamite. And when it came out, when was it? Year 2000
Oh my gosh, it was a
long
time ago.
Claire's had a whole bunch of that movie stuff.
Swag or
Swag,
something.
yeah. So anyway, I purchased
Napoleon
this button.
merch.
I love it. The Happy Hands Club. So they were being creative.
They were.
in their little Happy Hands Club. Just little songs and things. And anyway.
Yeah, that was awesome.
So
I just know that there is a fair amount of people that are watching this and they are not sure what that is, and they have recognized that there's a button, and they are just desperately, desperately, desperately wanting to know what it is. So now we have unleashed the prophetic power of the Happy Hands Club.
Napoleon
button.
Dynamite. It's a great, clean movie that's super funny.
That you really have to set aside any judgment.
You really
If you
do.
watch it.
Set aside.
You really do.
That's fantastic. You've enlightened
Yeah.
us all. So,
Yeah.
as we kind of wrap this up, Kelley, any last thoughts, or Prudence, any last thoughts that would help encourage someone that's listening to this with a hefty dose of skepticism that they're still carrying around, a backpack that they're wearing, that they can be a creative outlet, that the Holy Spirit can work through them in creativity, that he's, and I want to specify too, it's not just that God is expressing through you, it's that he made you creative.
Right.
So what kind of encouragement, is there anything that you can encourage them? Because I'm certain that there are some people that have just believed their whole life they're not a creative person. And we're breaking that down in these 2 episodes. But what encouragement would you leave with them?
Well, from my perspective, I'm always like, get back to the heart of the child. And so to enhance creativity, open up creativity, get connected with your creativity, whether or not you ever become an artist, because not everyone's called to be an artist. We are all creative. And
that's a good distinction.
is to just like get something as non-threatening as possible, even if it's a box of crayons and white paper, and just do it.
Okay,
So
fun
for
fact.
the doubter, you're saying do it.
Just do it.
So, fun fact on the whole crayons thing, I think it has been documented that actually inhaling the smell of them reduces our blood pressure because it literally takes us back to
It's true.
when we were little.
That is true.
Yeah. Okay. When we were less stressed.
Yes,
So,
less
okay,
stressed.
then maybe you don't color, you just sniff them.
In fact,
is
my
true.
mother sent him a box of crayons one time when he was working in a very high stress corporate.
It's true.
Because she read that.
She
I love
She
it.
read it in an article. She made a photocopy of the article. She tucked it inside the crayon box, and then on the inside of the lid, she literally did write "pass the crayons,"
Oh, that's awesome.
and then she sent it to me.
I love it.
And then encouraged me to take a deep inhale of these crayons before every meeting, and I did. And I have no idea if it helped the stress or not, but it did smell good, like crayons, like that 64 color box that you'd open up and
I had crayon
good.
trauma when I was in the first grade.
crayon trauma.
Crayon trauma, really major trauma in
Whoa.
crayons. Well,
That might
I was
not
like
help you.
the third child, so I got all the leftovers. Right, we didn't have very much money, and so I took my bag of crayons to this new school that we were in, first grade, and I was all happy because I had crayons, and, colors. And my teacher holds up this bag and says, "Now, class, this is not how we bring crayons to school."
No.
Mrs. LaFontaine. And I've had lots of
You've worked through that a
counseling.
couple of times.
Yeah. And but anyway, so I went home over lunch and told my mom. And now as a mom, I can't imagine what she must have been feeling. But she helped me find all the biggest ones and put them in one of those plastic boxes. So I went back all proud of my crayons. But
Your
yeah.
crayons work just fine in a bag.
I know,
They work
right?
just fine in a
Now
bag.
I work with broken crayons all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So good.
Totally.
I
Kelley-
do art with them.
Kelley, thank you for breaking this down for us. Thank you for helping us see that everybody's creative.
Oh, it's been fun.
It's so true. It's so easy to have it squashed out of us.
Yeah.
It's so easy to have our culture squash that out of us. So thank you for that. It's
Yep.
super good. If you want to find more information about Kelley, you can go find e-courses from Kelley, all of her information at the Kingdom Learning website, kingdomlearning.life. Go check that out. Like and subscribe this stuff. And definitely, this is a call to you. Okay. You're feeling it right now, okay? Get a piece of paper, just start expressing what you're feeling on paper with some crayons, and maybe sniff them. Maybe
And you'll be good.
pass the crayon
Blow
box
some
around.
bubbles.
You'll be good. But we will see you guys on the next one. This has been fun. Don't miss the next one. We'll see you there.